Hello, dear friends, and welcome to our special Insight Reading Enlightenment podcast episode about the Valetta Baroque Festival in Malta. I'm very excited to share my experiences with you. We will attend 3 fantastic concerts and talk to some great artists while discovering the hidden treasures such as a historic organ from the first church of Valetta. Our journey begins with the Aurum Variations, a unique musical newly composed cycle inspired by Bach's Goldberg Variations. In one of our previous episodes, I interviewed Jean Rondeau about the original cycles, so please go and check it out. And now, let's get started. Hi guys, could you please introduce yourself for our listeners?
Hello, my name is Eric Boscherf. I'm a recorder player and I was on your wonderful podcast before.
I'm Carlo Maria Paulesu and I'm a cellist.
And I'm Tom Armitage and I'm a composer and a pianist and today a harpsichord player.
And together you are?
We are the Power Ensemble, yes.
And what are you doing here?
We've just had this fantastic concert, which was a lot of fun. We just performed the Aurum Variations, which is a new composition by myself and Luc Houtkamp, who is the founder of the Power Ensemble. And it's a complete reworking of Bach's Goldberg Variations. So we took all the 30 variations and we completely rewrote them in our style, whilst also taking some inspiration from Bach's original. Eric wrote the aria, which is at the beginning and at the end, and then Luc wrote the odd-numbered variations, and I wrote the even-numbered variations.
Eric, how you composed your aria and why you composed it the way that it sounded today in the concert?
I wanted to start with a kind of toccata. So the piece starts with a unison toccata of all the 3 instruments. And then I wanted to make not variations on the harmonic pattern, which is what Bach did, but on the melody. So actually the melody has a different harmonization. In the next variation we have playful things going on with a slide whistle, and the theme is in the cello. So it goes in unexpected directions, you could say.
Was there some modern notation signs, like a legend?
It wasn't that extreme. The way it's written, the music, it can be tricky if you come from if you're used to early music. But in the end, like working together, I think we did a really good job. And they helped me a lot to get through it.
You just gave ourselves a compliment. Oh, we did a really good job.
No, I mean...
No, I'm also happy. I'm also happy with it.
Talking about Luc's variations, I think my favorite one was one of the slow minor ones. The one that sounds really sad. Yeah, these are my 2 favorites probably.
Some of my favorite ones to play were actually the ones that I didn't like the most at first, and I didn't like them because they were so challenging to learn, and they were very, very frustrating. And they were 2 of Luc's, which use a lot of modes of Messiaen, and they were extremely challenging to learn. And I was definitely hitting my head against a wall for a long time. But then when I got the hang of them, and it took months and months and months of practice, but when I got the hang of them, I suddenly just started to enjoy them so much more. They were so much more interesting. And then when we took them to the harpsichord and played around with the different registers and found different sounds to complement the Luke's writing, they became even more fun. And then I was actually looking forward to playing them whenever they came up in our rehearsals. I was like, oh, it's this one again. This is going to be hard work, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So I think they were some of my favourite ones.
And how is it for you to get along with the harpsichord? Because it's normally not the instrument you're playing on. You're
right, yes. I mean, I only started really transitioning to harpsichord about 2 years ago. I'm still extremely active as a pianist. But I started moving over to harpsichord a couple of years ago, and that was a big challenge, just with the keys being a slightly different size and having to change my technique a little bit. And what I find difficult now is going back and forth between the piano and the harpsichord very, very quickly. It takes me a while to adjust. So even with this piece which we played today, I tried as much as possible this month not to play it on the piano. Because I tried it once about 2 weeks ago, and it was and the keys were just too heavy, and I couldn't do it. I'd learned it on the piano, and I got it really good on the piano, and then suddenly about 2 weeks ago, I couldn't do it anymore. So these past 2 weeks, I've just been trying to find harpsichords wherever I can find them on the island and just play them as much as I can.
And for you, Eric, what was your favorite one?
I think there is something interesting that you mentioned about when something is harder and you are confronted with the fact that you can't do it, there is a moment where you're going to more hate yourself, but that has nothing to do with the piece, but it is coloring your opinion of the piece, of course. So it is true that once you get through that, then it's better. I mean, one of our little duo with your final chord at the end, it's probably the most challenging, but it is also very nice to play it and yeah. It's a challenge. Try to play it better every time. Yeah.
What do you think generally about rewriting or composing upon a theme, upon a subject of such as Goldberg variation? What do you think in general about that idea?
I think it's a lovely idea, but maybe I will give the microphone to Luke Houtkamp, who just entered the room and might be able to say something from his perspective.
Absolutely.
Well, I think you always need a theme for when you write music, and that can be a musical, but it can also be a cultural or even a political theme or text. This one, the subject is the Goldberg variations. And my own pieces, I think I try to take the essentials of every movement and use them in the piece, but in a different way than Bach would do.
And there were no special newest techniques in the piece. Was it on purpose that you tried to avoid that?
Of course, I think you need a language for every piece, for every and so that's also why my work is very diverse. Because I stopped being sort of to having a style. I think I hate to have a style, but nevertheless I probably have a style, but not choosing for the media. It can be total improvisation. It can be noisy. It can have some rock influences or pop influences. It can have some humor usually. That's a sort of continual thing that there's always some humor in it. I think. I feel like I'm an artistic libertarian. I think I never wanted to fit into boxes. And for new music, there was people had the idea. Okay, we are now making new music, and then after 40, 50 years, it all became sort of cliches. So I decided, okay, let's not do that. My idea of contemporary music is that you have this whole palette of possibilities, and so you just use it when you need it.
Yeah, and what do you think about this idea of reappropriation, the concept?
I think the first thing I had to overcome was trying not to be so intimidated by Bach, as if he was in the room with me, watching over me and saying, "You are ruining my work." But that was quite quick and quite easy to overcome when I actually started work on it. And as well, knowing that I was writing this with Luke, and we never heard each other's variations until we finished, which I think is the result of the diversity of the different variations that were heard today. But knowing that I was going to be writing with Luke, and I've played Luke's music many, many times, we've worked together many times, and I'm very fond of his music, and knowing the humour that he would bring to it, and I very much love playing his pieces with humour as well. So I thought that was probably somewhere we would meet in the middle. So I feel as though both our variations had a good degree of humour in them somewhere along the way. But yeah, similar to Eric and to Luke, it was a case of looking at the original variations, and in our case, we took the melodies as our sort of starting point instead of the harmonies, which is what Bach started with. So we took the melodies and we had a lot of fun with them, really. And as Luke also said, not fit into a box as well was one of the most enjoyable parts of it. Every variation was a new challenge. So I would sit down and think, what can I do with this? And it doesn't necessarily have to be the same as the last one. It can be a completely different style or a completely different approach. So that then made the piece really enjoyable to write, and that made it less intimidating as well to write.
And to play.
And no, it's still intimidating now. To the very last second of that concert, I had terror in my fingers.
You looked quite chilled, Amos.
You're very kind.
Well, one thing that I like to add, as the only person that didn't compose anything here, the thing that I really appreciated is that I didn't feel like I was obliged to do stuff. I was very free to do what I felt I had to do, and most of the time everyone was okay with that. So there was a lot of space for interpretation.
I wouldn't even call it reappropriation. I would call it the continuation of a tradition of being a composer and performer in one. And through the super specialization that happened in the especially 20th century, we have, classical performers that cannot play a blues. I mean, I was there myself, and I felt incredibly stupid. I think that composing, improvising, and playing is all the same thing. That doesn't mean that I am now fully considering myself a fantastic composer. It's just a permanent learning process, and every concert is a tryout.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Bravi. It was a wonderful concert.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And now I would love to invite you to the next concert, and that will be Vivaldi, 4 Seasons for Harp.
Hi, I'm Keziah Thomas. I'm from England and I'm a harpist. The inspiration came when I was doing some concerts in London. I was doing a recording of Max Richter's recomposed version of the Seasons. This version has a really beautiful harp part. As I was sitting in this recording, I just thought, I wonder if I could try other parts of it. And it started with winter. I had to go back to remembering studying figured bass at music college. Harpists generally don't play figured bass. I decided to make a video of it. So I'd started with winter, and I just decided to not look ahead at the whole thing, just to look at them movement by movement and hope that they worked. And when I started the project, I thought that there might be some movements that I would have to leave out. Some of the violin solo lines wouldn't work on the harp, but I didn't actually have to change very much in the end from the violin solo line. There are things that have changed, but basically it's all there.
So the arrangement you have done by yourself.
Yes.
Could you tell about the process? How was it happening?
So it was very much me sitting at the harp and playing. Initially, I didn't write it down. I just worked from the score. So everything in the arrangement is kind of from my own playing point of view. Later on, I realised that it would be really lovely to publish the arrangement because there hasn't been arrangement of the piece for solo harp 4. I knew that people would really enjoy playing it, so I did then go back and write it down and then recorded it as well. This happened over a few years and the pandemic was in the middle, so I had quite a lot of time to come back to it.
As you were explaining in the concert about the special techniques you were using, and could you tell a little bit more about those techniques?
Yes, so I use lots of the technique called bisbigliandi, which means whispering. And it's like a little very fast trill, which happens between the hands, and which is so effective for birdsong, for the teeth chattering in winter. Yeah, that comes back quite a few times through it. I also use other techniques such as there's some tapping on the soundboard for the gunshots in The Hunt in autumn. There is a thunder effect, which I was influenced by Carlos Salcedo, 20th century harpist. And the thunder effect is made by slapping very fast the palm of the hand against the wire strings so that they vibrate. So that happens in the slow movement of summer as the thunder is happening in the background. Sometimes I play with my nails. I use lots of harmonics, which create a really beautiful, lovely bell-like sonority.
And have you played on period instruments of the time, or maybe on a Renaissance harp? Have you explored this corner?
That's a very good question. No, I have not. I teach in London at the Guildhall School, and we do have a Baroque triple harp. And yes, I have tried it, but I found it incredibly difficult. And I would absolutely love to explore it in more detail. Everything is coming from a modern harp perspective in this arrangement.
It was a great evening. It was a great concert. Thank you. In our third and last concert of this special episode, we are going to travel to Rome with John Aquilina, an organist, and his recital dedicated to Frescobaldi and Zipoli, played on a historical Santucci organ at the very first church of Valetta, Church of Our Lady of Victory.
I'm John Aquilina. I'm a freelance organist at the moment, but I was an organist at Medina Cathedral for 18 years. And I played in churches in Valletta as well, in my hometown, St. I pursue some international concerts as well. I've been lucky to play in the Italian Organ Festival, in the Linz-Bruckner Orgelnacht, and so on. And I gave the first improvisation concert in Malta, so I have a compact disc recording the Maltese historical instruments on the major platforms, recorded in 2011. And it is my pleasure to perform on our historical heritage in our most beautiful churches and chapels as well.
Could you tell a little bit more about the organ that you have performed today?
Yes, it's a 1790 Santucci organ. It was lost for a long time, but somebody traced it, and it was fully restored and put in place and so on. It's again being recently tuned, and it's a really gem of an instrument, ideal to practice the early Italian repertoire. It's got 7 stops and pull down short octave and so on, so it's ideal to study this kind of repertoire.
Yes, because the organ was built in the 1790s, yes. Right? And do you know something about the maker?
Italian, Santucci, very famous organ builder there. Yes, we have quite a treasure trove of these. We have an old organ in St. John's Cathedral of 1575, Raffaele La Valle from Sicily. So you can really play Renaissance music in it on a very light pressured organ. You can hear the different sounds coming out when you press the notes and so on. And also throughout the country there are many Baroque instruments of this Italian school. We have taken a lot of the Italian heritage here.
And also when I'm thinking about 1790, the organ it also reminds of an early Baroque Renaissance maybe organs.
That's right.
How did you feel with that?
That's right, because the musical developments in Italy were centered around opera, harmony, the musical forms, moving from the early ricercare, canzone to the sonata and the toccatas and the concerto. So there were these developments also in harmony and tiri, but the organ remained more or less static. It's the same. It's a typical Italian broken ripieno, principale, ottava, decima quinta, decima nona, vigesima seconda, the ondulant voce umana. It hasn't got any flute stops except the 12th stop, which gives it this quint sound, and it's good. Yes, you are right. The organ remained more or less the same. But of course, each organ is different because of the ambience, the building, and the acoustics.
And this organ was specifically built for this church. Do you know something?
It seems so. Yes. But there was a story behind it that it was like packed somewhere and lost for a very long time until someone traced it. They saved it, and Mr. Robert Bohadra, who is an organ restorer here, he's doing our own Maltese Renaissance of organ restoration and building as well. He gave it a new life.
I thought that the organ sounds really perfect for the space where it installed into. It doesn't overwhelm the space and it sounds just perfect. And what was your impression practicing this specific program?
There is a huge difference. In fact, I had to change some registrations because when it's an empty church, the Principale can sing along. But with a full packed church like today, it would have been lost. So I had to add other stops to liven it up. But on its own, it's really nice discovering this organ. The acoustics is very nice to practice because there isn't such a long reverb, but it gives it some warmth as well. So I'm quite happy with this space.
And could you tell more about the program? Why did you pick those composers specifically?
Yes, I wanted to show a bit the transition. So going from Frescobaldi, who was really influenced keyboard music and study of keyboard music for a long time, and the transition from the Renaissance polyphonic context, the contrapuntal, to the ornate, melodic, lyrical and expressive of the mature Zipoli. You can still find the origins of this in the toccatas for the elevation by Frescobaldi, but you can see them reflected and matured with the influences in those span of 8 years. So I wanted to show a bit of the contrast what was happening during a typical mass, because the program was structured along the pieces of the mass, the Kyrie, the toccata at the beginning, the Kyrie versets, the offertory, the elevation and the post-communion recessional, and then contrasting that with Zipoli. So it was like a journey in time, seeing how these forms took shape. They were influenced with the Baroque, very much what was happening in this building. This is the first church in Valletta. So really, this was the start of the big ornate and beautiful palaces and churches we have in Valletta. So I thought that this is also a reflection of art and faith.
Thank you very much. It was a wonderful concert. If you would love to see some of the beautiful views of Valletta, some of its churches and incredible architecture, please follow our Instagram, Insight Reading Enlightenment, where you will find my little vlog from the wonderful trip. Thanks to the Valetta Baroque Festival for the invitation. And if you would like to check out my special season recorded for REMA about early music today, follow the link in the description. My name is Darina Blogina. See you soon. Bye.